All right, hello everybody. We're going to try something new here today, a van lesson with a weird kind of background here, but let's see how this works. I got my phone hanging up on bungee cords in this ingenious, not genius, but weird kind of way that I thought of might make a lesson happen. So let's try it out and see how it works. Last week we went over this lesson here where we compared major and minor caged to the pentatonic system and showed you how to find all your 1, 3, 5 notes anywhere on the fretboard, referencing what you already know, your minor pentatonic system. And from there, I was thinking that this exposed some cool things. Oops, sorry there. If you can't find this lesson, I've tried to organize my Facebook page and it doesn't seem to work to get them all logically ordered. So if you don't see this lesson from last week, just pause the video here and copy this handy dandy reference chart down. And we saw some neat things pop out, like the fact that with each caged shape, there's this little kind of, there's one string where there's 2 notes and the rest of the strings will have 1 note in these shape areas. And that will usually make a little area where you can slide from note to note, a la a Jerry Garcia kind of sound. Not sure if that's exactly what he does, but I would think that that's probably within the scope of that, what he's doing. Anyways, so I was wondering if there was a way that it would be a little easier to memorize, like how instead of having to memorize this shape for this shape and then this shape for this shape and this for this, and there's a different shape for each pentatonic, as you see caged, like the C works for here in major, but for minor it's the A minor shape. So that can be a little bit a lot to remember. Is there an easier way? Yes, there is. So I'll show you what I came up with here. It's super awesome, super simple. So what we got here is, first of all, we're going to use is this pentatonic shape here. You can see that it's in the pentatonic shape. I'm sure you know that one. It's this shape. And there's this shape, this shape, this shape. The 5 shapes of the pentatonic all right there. So we're going to reference this shape, call it shape number 1. I think a lot of people do. And what we got is, I'm going to show you, there's basically 2 parts to this shape. Let me show you really quick. Since I got my guitar handy here, it's when you look down at your guitar, you're looking down at it. Let's use the 12th fret here. We got, whoa, where are we? 1, 4, 1, 3. Or maybe I can even pick that while you guys can see it. This worked good a second ago. I don't know what the hell's going on now, but why we can't see it. But anyways, okay, you're not going to be able to see it the way I'm holding it here, so let's just say you get it. Okay, so little impromptu here. I hope you guys can bear with me. This shape, I'm sure you just saw what it was and you know what's going on. This shape is basically made up of 2 simple parts. Every one of those pentatonic shapes is only 2 pieces. Just like a piano keyboard is 2 pieces of, let's say if you can visualize where the 2 black keys are, then the 3 black keys are, and that keeps repeating. It's 2 different pieces of the puzzle. So pentatonics work the same way. You've got, let's call this the big shape, where it's the bottom here of the 4 notes apart on 2 strings. And then we'll call this the small shape, where it's 6 notes in a square. Sort of like a tic-tac-toe board maybe. But anyways, you might say, hey, pentatonic is 5 notes. That's only 4 and that's 6. That's kind of weird. Well, this is simply missing one of the notes. And this has a double note. You'll know that this and this are the octave shape. Let's check that out. when you look down at your guitar, you can see that. Same note. So anyways, that ends up being 5 notes. Even though there's 6 notes, 1 is a repeat. Now, incidentally, what you should know, that's a little beyond the scope of this lesson today, is this shape is actually just simply this shape. If you put this shape, if you write this shape down and then you write where it repeats itself, it's actually the sides of that shape. So in other words, you have this side right there, and the notes that make up this side are right there. And then this is the 5th note here that repeats. Kind of cool, huh? So really it's only one shape, but you can think of it as 2 shapes. And I'm going to show you how to plug in the major and minor chord tones. It's symmetrical, so it's super easy and super cool because it's symmetrical and it's just pretty cool. Incidentally, I also found that this shape helps me memorize one part of the fretboard. Let's say this is the 6th string right here. I know the pentatonics. It's just an easy way to get across the fretboard. This is the top of. See my notes here. Oops. I'm sure you probably know that this, if this was the 6th string, this is the top of this shape. Here's the 6, and then here's the lower one that makes up this shape. So you basically get a way to understand where these shapes are really quick and get around the fretboard. Let's jam a little bit. Using that. Whoops, let me get in the camera here. Okay, whatever, I just messed all that up, but anyways, live lesson here, live recording here, I'm not going to edit, so you're just going to have to deal with whatever the hell I do here. Maybe we'll get a little better at this format, trying to make videos on the road here. So we got that. You just copy all that down and get it. Let me know in the comments if you are in question about anything. But so from there, it's as simple as this. Make sure you write this magic page down. Drum roll, please. Kaboom, kabam, write this down. Look how easy this is. Major, all you need to do is remember this plug-in and that plug-in. Minor, you remember this plug-in and that plug-in, and check it out. There's a couple rules here. First of all, remember this rule. 5 is always above the R. R for root. So the 5th is always above the root. 5th above the root, 5th above the root, 5th above the root. Now, just remember everything is a reverse order of everything else. So for example, for major, you have the 5th above the root on the right side and the 3, I'll call this the top. So we got the 3 on top and the root and the 5. For minor, you simply reverse that. You've got the 5 above the root on the, first of all, so put it on the left side, and you always keep the 5 above the root, and then you have the 3 on the bottom, the minor 3rd on the bottom. If you think minor, bottom, major, top. Kind of makes sense, right? And I always easily remember this shape because this is in a lick I know from Pink Floyd, 3 Different Ones guitar solo. You can hear that right here. We'll play you the lick. I don't know if you can see it, but hammer on, pull off, and then this, just bar these two. You get it. Pretty basic, pretty simple. You guys aren't that lost, I'm sure. So this is just basically the opposite. Easy to remember that for major. And then, wherever you find this shape, for our example here, for this shape, it would be, we're plugging it in here and there if you're using the standard box. For major, once again, 5 above the root. This time it's reversed. You start with it on the left, and you put your 3rd on the top on the right. For minor, it's just the opposite. 5 above the root, but this is on top, and 3 is on the bottom. Or another way to think about this is where the 5 and the root are. Always use the, consider that string taken, this string taken. So your empty string has the 3rd on the opposite side. So the same here. If you have your 5 above the root, then you have your empty string here. There's the 3rd on the opposite side of the 5 above the root. Make sense? Copy that down and you've got a super easy way to create this or this out of any pentatonic box. Super easy. So for example, like right here, there's your big box. So if you wanted minor, you'd have the 5 above the root, and there's the 3rd on the bottom, that pull off thing. Or if you wanted major, look at, there it is, the 3rd and then the 5 above the root. And then there's the other box here, the 3 and then the 5 above the root. You can see here the string shift for the B string throws a little loop in this stuff, so you always got to remember that that's happening. And that's why this never jumped out at you, because the guitar has that little quirk that makes it so confusing for everybody, and this stuff never jumps out at anybody. So now, final thing. Glad I jammed a little bit there, because I did want to mention the final little bit here. And that is about now using this to actually make some musical statements. Number 1, if you're jamming in major, what's going to happen is, let's put aside that there are 2 extra notes left off of this. I mean, there is the 7-note major scale that adds on 2 other notes, but let's consider those beside the point. Let's say you're just using pentatonic 5 notes to solo in. What you would have if you were soloing over a major chord, and that was the root of your chord, then these are the notes that you're going to keep, that you're maybe going to emphasize or start and end on strong beats. And these are going to be like your in-between notes. So you're going to ping-pong back from an empty box. So just keep on ping-ponging from the empty boxes to the filled-in boxes. And you'll sound like you know what you're doing. And it'll have a more musical sound instead of just noodling. Because when you noodle, sometimes you don't realize it and you don't know what's going on. You just know the box shape. Sometimes you're ending up on this one, and maybe it sounds good, but maybe it didn't sound as good. And maybe there's you hear another guitarist that always has these notes that really strike you. That's because they're targeting these chord tones at certain times. Now, that being said, there are times when you can land on one of these white notes on purpose. What you're doing there in landing, choosing to target one of the filled-in boxes or one of the empty boxes is tension and release. And I got I'm going to leave you with this magic epiphany I had the other day, which is that people often talk about, in different sentences, different worlds, different rooms, the language of music. And then in other talks, they're talking about tension and release. And I had this thought the other day. I know what the language of music is, because I kind of could get it. The language of music, there's intervals, but what does it mean? How do you speak the language of music? How do you tell someone about, there's no words, so how does it become a language? The language is tension and release. Do you hear me? The language of music is the tension and release. It's maybe in the beginning of your solo, targeting the chord tones. Then in the middle of your solo, maybe targeting the non-chord tones to kind of build in the tension there. And then at the end of the solo, going back to targeting the chord tone. So then you have the release. So you have the maybe release, tension, release, or you just start with tension, then release if it's a shorter solo. And maybe all tension, and then at the very end go to release, or maybe all release and you don't have any tension. Depends on your song and what you're doing. Same thing with minor. Use the empties for when you want to build tension. Use those as your landing notes. When you want to have release, there you go. There's your chord tones. And bends. Bend too. Bend from these clear notes into the into the regular notes, hammer-ons, all that stuff. You'll get the idea. Fool around with that. See what you find. I hope you found this lesson super useful. And let me know if you like these van lessons or if this is the worst thing you've ever seen. I know it's not the greatest. It's not my old setup here at the desk in my home office. But until I get any Patreon people, I have to live in a van delivering freight across country, which is kind of fun, but it has its challenges. Look up my other channel called Rookie Van Expediting. I changed the name, if I told you before. It's Rookie Van Expediting, and you can see me on the road complaining about my job doing this van expediting gig. Telling you why you probably don't want to do this. Okay, have a great day. Remember to like and subscribe, like everybody says at the end of these videos. Tell somebody about this, please. That would be awesome if you guys spread the word. Maybe I can see 702 subscribers, right? So, all right. Thumbs up. Have a good day. Check you later.